here is what keeps me coming back.
All right, guys. Welcome back to our Serious Angler podcast, episode number 139. Today we're joined by Mr. Jason Lambert, who will introduce in a bit here. But Andy, how are you feeling, buddy? After you're probably probably the best weekend of your life.
Dude, that was such a fun weekend. I think we could all say it was a great weekend for all of us. Like, started off Friday night. You missed out in the ice cream social after the wings and pizza party at Hippert's house with Destin and Schnupp, and then we went out on the river Saturday and just had a riot, and then Sunday we had a smallmouth beatdown. So
you had a smallmouth beatdown.
I mean,
Mike and I caught a lot of fish. Don't get me wrong, but you guys had a quite literal beatdown.
It was funny, like, to get my mind right before every fish, because we didn't have a net. I literally would look at Destin and be like, bare hands. I'm going to snatch these things. And it would jump, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a 6.5. Like, ah.
I just wish I saw the reaction of you guys just dropping Magnum Smallies on the deck. I just wanted to see the I wish you guys had the GoPro rolling just so I could see the after effect.
I wish we had it rolling in our 10-minute splurt where we put 27 pounds in the boat in 7 minutes or 10 minutes or something ridiculous. It was just one after another, like, just insane. But we'll talk about that later. Let's get Jason on here.
Make sure you guys stick around after the show today, after we talk with Jason, because it's not going to be done there. We're going to talk some smallmouth afterwards, and it's going to be fun. So stick around. But without further ado, let's get him on here. Mr. Jason Lambert, what's going on, man?
What's up, fellas? I am hanging out in Tennessee, outside in shorts. And as you guys said, it was 26 degrees the other morning when you took off. So
yeah, it was chilly.
Yeah, a little chilly. Y'all have to excuse the voice. I got a little bit of sinus stuff. I promise it's not COVID. Don't worry, we're not contagious. So we're just gonna have some fun. See what we talk about tonight.
Well, even if it is, I mean, you're there, we're here. You seem to be good. So
yeah, I don't think it's transmittable through my
helicopter.
Yeah, you hope not. I've heard some crazy theories. There was something in the news the other day that my girlfriend was showing me in Buffalo. There was like an older couple that had like. It was like purple bird poop, but they're like, it's COVID rain. Like, that's what they were blaming. There's no theories going around, dude.
Man, that's good stuff.
It is crazy times that we live in, and it made for a really crazy season for us. I mean, we got shut down in March, so we were down for like 2.5 months, and then the whole entire rest of the year got crammed into, from late May till mid-August. So I literally left home base May the 30th and got back August the 22nd. So it was nuts. It was a weird year, and nobody ever wants to wish their life away, but I'll be glad to see 21.
Yeah, I think we're all glad to see 21, and hopefully they make some more improvements on that COVID front, so you don't have to keep being worried about it, right? So
yeah, I saw a tweet the other day that I laughed at for probably 10 minutes, but it couldn't be further from it couldn't be more perfect. It was, I hope 2020 is like the Super Bowl with the Falcons. I hope that we come back in the fourth quarter.
So far, it ain't looking too good.
It just obviously happens to be a election year on top of that. So you can't turn anything on anymore on television to whether it's not COVID, everybody's dying, or election, and this guy sucks and that guy sucks. And I'll be honest, dude, I'm just tired of hearing it. I'm over it.
I think we're all in the same boat.
Yeah,
I just want to go fishing.
Yeah, let's just get things back to normal. Life goes on.
100%. So, Jason, before we get into too deep into the podcast here, what we like to ask everybody who's new to the show is, your roots into fishing. What was that first fish catch like? Who got you into it? Whole 9 yards.
I grew up in the South, pond fishing, bank fishing. I mean, I probably wasn't in a boat actually fishing until I was in my teens. And the funny thing was I never even bass fished. I mean, I didn't bass fish at all until I was probably 20, 21 years old. I mean, we'd always crappie fished, we'd always catfished, brim fished. The funny thing is, you think about it, old redneck Southern boy down here fishing the Tennessee River. I mean, we used to fly rod fish a lot. When we'd have the willow fly hatches, when you'd have all the the mayflies coming out, we would take a old popping bug, a little bitty popping bug on a fly rod and go catch, shell crackers, we call them, red ears, a lot of people call them, but it's brim basically. And that was the way I grew up fishing. And the first big fish that I ever remember catching bass was we were crappie fishing, and I caught like a 6.5 pound smallmouth on Pickwick Lake on Tennessee River on a crappie rig. And
what carnation is this?
Dude, we took that thing home and it got the sides cut off of it. That's just the way it was. I mean, everything that you caught when I was a kid, you took home and you cleaned and you ate. And I really didn't even, my dad never fished. I mean, he fished, but not bass fished. And, a friend of mine and I, my first bass boat was a little 17-foot Spectrum aluminum boat with a 40-horse force on it. And, we kind of got started bass fishing. And then, my first glass boat was a old 400 Javelin, like a 1999 model, with 200 Evinrude on it.
Nice.
And I just started fishing club tournaments, and and I've always been intrigued with the electronics and the offshore fishing, and I felt like we got a big head start on that on a lot of guys, because we had the place to do it on the Tennessee River. And Humminbird was the first one, and then Lawrence had theirs, and we didn't have YouTube to go learn how to do everything. We just went, and you knew places where you'd always caught them out deep and offshore, and you just started really expanding what those electronics would do. So for me, it never was a given. I mean, to be honest, 7, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, I had absolutely no aspirations of ever being a professional fisherman. I was in sales and marketing and had a pretty upstanding, high paying job. And then 2008, 2009, when we had that crisis happen back then, the position that I was in 2010 actually had gotten cut, and I could have stayed with the company I was with, but I was going to have to either relocate or be full-time traveler, get on a plane on Monday and come home on Thursday. And I just wasn't interested in it. So, I started doing some guiding, started doing electronics training trips, and had 2 or 3 like pretty lucrative years cherry picking tournaments. And then, 2014, I was basically ready to go back to work and do away with the fishing gig, and the FLW Tour schedule came out, and it had Pickwick and Kentucky Lake on it for 14. So, we decided, why not? Let's go hit it one time before I go back to the corporate world and, get behind a laptop every day of my life. And, went out and won Rookie of the Year, and the rest is history. I mean, here we are, 7, 8 years later, and man, it's been a pretty good career for me. So I don't really have any complaints, and it's a job. Don't take it the wrong way. I mean, a lot of guys say, "Hey, man, y'all got it made. Y'all get to fish for a living," and that is true. We do get to fish for a living, but there's a whole lot of stuff that y'all don't see that goes into it, with the sales and the marketing and the travel time, and and here we are on a Monday night. My beautiful wife's up there in the camper, and I'm sitting down here talking to you guys. So there's a lot more to it than just going fishing, but I wouldn't trade it, man. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I look forward to doing it. As long as physically able to do it, I look forward to doing it.
Heck yeah.
Awesome.
It's kind of crazy to think about when you reflect back, and it's like any like minor thing that could have gone another way, and you'd be sitting at a desk. You might not have got Rookie of the Year. I mean, who knows?
It's everybody's like, man, you remember that girl you dated in school, or that girl you dated in school. What if that happened? What if this happened? But it didn't. So you roll with the punches that are dealt you, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And I have thoroughly enjoyed doing what I do for a living, and I've met so many people, and some of my best friends that I have now were guys that I drew as co-anglers back in the day, and it's funny. It's funny the road life takes you on sometimes, and you just have to embrace it because you never know when it's going to end. Hopefully I've been in long enough now and have, a good enough standing with sponsors and several companies that I feel like I'm obviously pretty solid in my career. So, but you just never know. And this deal's not for everybody. Like the fishing part is the easy part. That's the fun part. When we get to, line them up and boat 1, 2, 3, 4 and take off for a tournament, that's the thing that a lot of guys, they work all week so they can go fish a BFL or a club tournament or whatever on the weekend. And for us, it's no different, man. Like I work year round, all week long, month in, month out to be able to take blast off in February when we go to Okeechobee. So it's the same basic concept that all you guys at home that fish tournaments, it's the same thing, obviously on a different level, but your job is at XYZ company. My job is promoting Jason Lambert Fishing, for hardcore, Blazer boats, lure lock, all power pole, all my sponsors. My job is to make sure that those guys are selling product. Where your job's a little different doing whatever it is that you do, but it's the same basic concept. And you can do this industry as long as you treat it like a job. The moment you don't treat it like a job, you won't be doing this very long.
Well, I would definitely say your sales and marketing experience sitting behind the corporate gig probably helps a lot because you understand what corporations and businesses are looking for it, because you're basically just selling. You need to sell to thousands of millions of viewers the best product. So if they see that product is moving, you can be like, this is why. So you always have an explanation. So that's one of the biggest aspects in people's lives that they miss is the fact that you have to work for it.
Well, when I was in sales and marketing, I was selling a product. You had this product and you had this, well, what's good about it, what's bad about it, price point. I mean, it's sales and marketing is no different. I don't care what you're selling, you're still selling a product. The only difference in the fishing world is me as an angler, I'm not necessarily selling a product. I mean, we do sell products when we do, videos for all of our sponsors and those are product selling moments. But when you go out to approach this business, I'm selling Jason Lambert. I'm not selling, a lure lock box or Garmin unit or whatever.
Right.
Initially I'm selling Garmin on why, they need Jason Lambert to represent their product. And that's the only difference is instead of selling a product, you're selling yourself. And once those relationships are formed, then it turns into a product selling deal. But that's video, that's social media posts. It's a little different than, knocking on doors, door to door, doing cold calls or whatever. So, but it's still, I mean, every industry that there is, whether it's, back in college, it was widgets, it don't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what the product is. There's sales and marketing involved. And that's, from Major League Fishing to Major League Baseball to NFL. I mean, there's no industry that takes place without sales and marketing. And our industry is no different. It's just, it's geared a little differently, but not really.
Right. 100%. So bring us back a little bit, because obviously now you're MLF pro, you've gotten to a stage where, this is your career, but when did tournament fishing start for you?
Probably one of the first actual bass tournaments that I fished, I was probably 23, 24 years old. And it was fruit jar tournaments, we call them. I mean, a lot of guys call them, what pot tournaments, whatever, where, everybody shows up on Monday night and you throw in $20 and you fish from 6 to 10. And the winner may make $230. I mean, that was where tournament fishing started for me, was fishing those pot tournaments. And, we still call them fruit jars. And
Uh-oh. It's frozen. Let's see. Let's try removing them, adding them back in. think he might have disconnected. We might have lost Jason. Let me shoot him a message here. Oh, man. Technical difficulties.
We're sorry.
We apologize. Let's shoot him a message. We haven't had a technical difficulty in weeks.
No.
Loading.
Last one was.
There he is. He's back.
I don't know if that was me or y'all, but anyway,
I have no idea.
There we go.
We'll blame it on us.
Sorry about that.
we're back. Welcome to 2020 and Zoom and all these other things we're doing. But I joined the club. I joined the club and started fishing club tournaments, and it seemed like every level I fished at, I'd done pretty well. And so, I won a Federation Southern Divisional, fished the Nationals in 2005. And, it was just like, it just came pretty natural to me. So, it started with fruit jars. It graduated into the Federation, then, the BFLs. And I one thing though, I've never done, I have never fished an event as a co-angler. And I know a lot of guys have done that and come up through that, and that's fine. I mean, but me, I'm that personality. I can't do that. I've never fished an event as a co-angler, and I don't know. Maybe, there's a learning curve, obviously, but for me, it's just not my personality to sit in the back and let somebody else make the decisions of where we're going.
No doubt. It's definitely an interesting route of doing things. I think if you're going to be a co-angler with the intent of, I'm going to be a co-angler for this event and I'm going to go win it and I'm going to go make money, I think you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. I think if you're trying to be a co-angler, it's okay, I hope I draw somebody where I can learn something valuable from them. And I've done a couple events, and that's my whole reasoning for it, is I know that most likely I'm going to spend money on this tournament and I'm not going to win anything back and I'm losing money. But in the end, I'm hoping I gain more knowledge, gain more experience from, whomever I draw or being around certain anglers that I might travel with. So,
it's almost like paying a guide. I mean, but it's not, you're not paying a guide to go fill your day. You're paying that money as a co-angler to go fish a tournament situation with somebody that might show you or present something to you never thought about doing. And it's not just that. It's as much, techniques, tackle, but lake knowledge. Places that guys have never gone and fished a certain body of water before.
Decision.
Right. It's, the one thing I'll say about bass fishing is it's no different than any other competitive sport. Obviously you got to be able to cast, you got to be able to reel, you got to be able to run a boat, but it's like any other competitive sport. It's a whole lot of it is between them ears, and decision making, on the fly is something that people don't really think that much about in a bass fishing tournament. But you got to know when to go, you got to know when to stay. There's on the water decisions that you cannot learn by reading any magazine or watching any YouTube video. There's absolutely no substitute for time on the water. And, you just get those feelings sometimes like, man, I need to do this, or I don't need to do this. But, with that being said, it also puts some of us, you always hear about the 0 for 10 slumps major league hitters have, or whatever. We all have those moments too, where, you get in a bad spot and you don't trust your instinct, and we always say we get too smart. We think we know more about flipping than we do, or we think we know more about this technique than we do. And the one piece of advice I can give anybody, and I've learned this the hard way myself growing through the years of fishing, fish your strengths, man. Do what you do. I don't care if it's, if it's me going to Sandusky Bay on Lake Erie and finishing in the top 10, because I don't care what all them other guys are doing. I'm going out there and reading my electronics for practice, and then I'm going to go back and fish what I learned with electronics. But you have to fish your strengths. If you're not a good flipper and you go to a flipping lake, you don't have to flip. There's things you can do that fit your strength on almost any body of water you go to. So always, always, always do what you do. And you'll, obviously if you do what you do, every tournament you do it, you're going to swing and miss at some point. But if it lines up, I don't care what body of water it is, in what part of the country it is, what species it is. If you're doing what you're good at and you can put it together, you can win any event you go fish, period, anywhere.
Yeah.
Confidence is king.
Yeah. I think the biggest testament to that in fishing right now is John Cox. Everyone's like, oh, it's going to get one out deep. Going to get one out deep. Nope.
Yeah.
John Cox go win it up shallow.
Yeah. It's funny, Cox and I were sharing some water at Sandusky, and John's a good friend of mine, has been for a long time. But, everybody thinks about John as being this or being that. But he and I were sharing some water at Sandusky Bay, and it kind of surprised me. It was one of those little deals like what are you doing? Not an obvious thing. And I roll in there on day 2, and John's there. I'm like, holy crap, how did you find this, buddy? But we end up sitting there fishing together, and it was great. So. But John is a perfect example. I mean, we were at Kentucky Lake when I broke all those records and set the all-time margin of victory out there doing what I was doing. John made the top 10 freaking flipping bushes. I mean, so it's
because nobody was flipping bushes besides Jack Cox.
Yeah, exactly. But and you're not going to win if you do what you're good at all the time, every lake you go to, you're not necessarily going to even cash a check all the time. But you got a lot better chance of winning any event you go to.
100%. Awesome. So that being said, amongst your career, and I like to ask a lot of people this because I think not only is it cool for you guys to reflect on it, but it's also cool for us listeners to kind of look at, these guys do actually have weaknesses, but also something that you might have not thought of before and kind of can help focus you to improve. But basically what I'm trying to ask is, looking back on your career, what would you say is your biggest strength and also your biggest weakness?
Well, my biggest strength is just power fishing. I mean, everybody knows me as a ledge guy, Tennessee River guy. I mean, they got all these records and all these big weights and whatever, but that's just natural to me because that's what I grew up doing. So obviously is a strength, but for me, it's power fishing. I mean, I'm a chunk and wind guy. Like, I don't care if it's offshore hydrilla. I don't care what it is. I like to chunk and wind. And I say that, and then we, go to Erie and make a top 10 with a drop shot. But that comes back to the electronics. And, the electronics is something that's also really natural to me because I've done it for so long that when I see something on my units, I know what it is and I know whether to fish for it or whether not to fish for it. But man, my Achilles heel has always been the spawn. Like growing up on the Tennessee River, we can't see them. We have algae bloom there, and watercolor is just not, indicative of being able to sight fish. So it's something I'm not really good at. My eyes aren't great either, so I don't see them as well as other people see them. So my worst finishes in my career, I mean, since day one, have been spawn tournaments. And it just, Lake Fork this year had a great year going. We go to Lake Fork, and I finished 79th out of 80 at MLF, and it just, for some reason, I just have never been able to put 2 and 2 together in spawn events. And, you say, I'm going to work on it, I'm going to work on it, I'm going to work on it. And I have worked on it.
But your window's only this big of the entire year to figure out how to catch them on spawn.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's not.
Uh-oh.
Oh, man. Not again. I don't think it's us. Is it? Do you think it's us?
No, I don't think so.
Good.
He is at a campsite.
Let's see. Let's try. Oh, there he is.
I'm not sure, man. It's
quick pause break.
I'm doing all I can do here with.
Hey, you're good.
But
you're taking a social break to take a sip of your drink. It's all good.
Yeah. So, it's usually you're not having 4 or 5 spawn events a year. I mean, we usually are broken down to where we have X amount of pre.
Uh-oh. Beer break.
That was a quick one.
Yeah. Woo. Said, hold on, let me get another sip.
Right.
Got y'all again, man.
There we go.
It's COVID. I'm telling you, it's COVID.
COVID. The computer's got COVID.
Yeah, my freaking MacBook's got COVID. But anyway, so 2021, you look at the schedule, and I'm fishing both circuits next year. I'm fishing Major League Fishing, BPT, and the original what was FLW, which is now the Big Five Pro Circuit. So that's 13 national events, which a lot of travel involved. But when I look at the schedule, I look and I say, okay, Sam Rayburn in late March. That's probably going to be a spawning event. But for the rest of them, I mean, we're not going to have that. I mean, it's going to be, Okeechobee, Smith will be pre-spawn. Obviously, Rayburn, who knows? Texas is always different. It depends on the weather, but it could be a full out spawn event. And if it does, I probably will struggle if I can't figure out, some fish coming in, some fish going out kind of thing. But the rest of the year, I'm really freaking excited about. I mean, we got, Harris Chain in May, offshore hydrilla, and go out there and chunk and wind something. Even Champlain, St. Lawrence River. I mean, all of those events up there always turn into electronics events. Especially late June, July, August, those fish are making their way out. I mean, St. Lawrence late June could still have a little bit of spawn going on, but probably not. So, I look at the schedule moving from year to year and I go, holy crap, man, we ain't got but one spawn event. I'm loving this.
Yeah. Well, at least that if there is a spawn still on the St. Lawrence River, you'll be able to see those because it's clear water.
It is gin clear, and if people haven't ever been there, it is a friggin' phenomenal smallmouth fishery. But the one thing that blows your mind when you get there is the amount of current that runs through that place. Like it's you think about a big giant river coming off of Lake Ontario, and especially down there at like Thousand Islands, like it's huge. I mean, there's water for miles, but it blows your mind how much current is actually there.
Oh, that thing pulls.
It's
hard.
6-7 mile an hour current all the time, and it gets really nasty if that wind turns out of the east or northeast blowing against that thing. Like it's you think about the Great Lakes. I mean, you guys fish Erie a lot. I mean, it gets gnarly out there, but it's a different kind of gnarly when it's blowing against that current than it is.
It stacks them real close and tight together. It's just not fun.
Day 3 at Sandusky Bay this year, we had 16 to 18 northeast. And I ran all the way to St. Clair.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Well, it's not fun, but it's doable.
Manageable.
It's troughs. You can come out of Sandusky Bay, you cut through the Bass Islands, you can run the troughs all the way to the Canadian shore. Okay, it's a 90-mile trip that takes 120 miles by the time you run the direction, but you can run 40, 50 miles an hour across Erie in the troughs. But when you get to somewhere like St. Lawrence and it's blowing 15 against that 6 mile an hour current, then like you said, it brings them here and you can't run here. So it's just bang, 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 bang. And it does get nasty, but I mean, I don't think a lot of the Southern guys have any clue how good you guys have got it up there as far as fishing. Like the fishing, the fishing on Lake Erie, especially we were talking about Buffalo earlier, that end of that is the pristine number one smallmouth fishery I've ever been to in my life. But I mean, it's not just there. It's St. Clair, it's the St. Lawrence River, it's Champlain. I mean, you hit Champlain when they're done spawning, and you catch largemouth, you catch smallmouth. It is freaking crazy good. And one thing I will say about the St. Lawrence River, a buddy of mine that I've known up there for a long time, he made a comment one time. We were talking about the largemouth fishing, and I weighed like a 1912 bag of largemouth up there one time. And they always talk about, there's nothing dumber than a northern smallmouth. Well, there is. It's a northern largemouth. So if you're on a place like Champlain or the St. Lawrence River where you got plenty of largemouth population and backwater, you can have some of the most phenomenal days of fishing you've ever had in your life. And, you can be up there late July even We were at Escanaba this year after Sturgeon Bay. Went over there and stayed a week, and it was 42 degrees 2 mornings. We had to wear hoodies and rain suits, but it was crazy good. Me and Cody Meyer went out at Escanaba, and, man, we blasted them. I mean, we caught 70, 80 fish that day, all smallmouth, and, our best
awesome.
24, 25. I mean, it's just –
that's a good day at the office.
It's so fun, man. I just don't think guys really know how good fishing is up there.
Right. Yeah, to Andy now, 25 is like, huh.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's dropped
30 over here.
Yeah, he's dropped 30 Sunday. I mean, what's 25?
Well, I'm sure you're very familiar with these giant bags too, Jason. So I think I'm the loner over here.
I have caught in my whole entire fishing career, I've caught 30 twice. I caught 30 at Kentucky in 2018, and I caught 30 by myself in a little team tournament on Pickwick. And gosh, I want to say it was like 2013, 2014. But I weighed a 30 bag that day, like 33 and a half. But I had
was that a mixed bag on Pickwick?
No, it was all largemouth. But I had a 1197 that day. So
that helps.
Yeah, 12 pounds of it in one fish. It's not unforeseeable. But I mean, that's the same thing at Kentucky. I had 30 pounds 9 ounces on day 3 in 2018, and I had a 9.2. So it usually takes a giant, one of those 9, 10, 11 pound fish to get to that 30 pound mark. I mean, it's real hard to go catch 5, 6 pounders in a day.
Yeah, but you can get 4 5s and a 10 pounder. You're right on your way.
It makes it when you put a 9+ quality fish in a bag, it changes things a lot.
Game
really
changer.
I don't know. How is Kentucky Lake doing? I know Andy was very interested in asking you about Kentucky Lake.
Man, I've been hearing a lot of varying opinions on it. Like it might be coming back, or it's not quite there.
It's going the right direction. I mean, it really is going the right direction. There's I haven't been up there this whole entire year, but I've got a lot of good friends that fish it a lot. And this summer they actually had some good schools of fish show up out deep, and they were catching lots of numbers. But, where it was in 2018, where we were there and I weighed 101 pounds or 102 pounds almost, I almost didn't catch any little fish. Like everything you caught was either, 4 to 7 pounds. And there's a lot of that changing now. There's a lot of, 10, 11, 12 pound stringers being caught. And I was talking to one of my buddies driving over here to East Tennessee, and they fished a deal there last weekend. And he's talking about fishing around some stump beds and stuff, and throwing spinnerbait. And when it comes back, there was 15, 20, 30 4, 5, 6 inches following it back. So there's a lot of shad back in the lake. There's a ton of shad. There's a lot of little fish. State of Tennessee and the state of Kentucky both. They put between the two states, they put about 800,000, Floridas in it this year too, and they're netting those carp. I mean, they're netting them pretty regularly, and those numbers have gone way down. So, I think it's going to be a long time before we see the
probably 7 years. I feel like that's the average cycle. It's like 7 years before a lake really rebounds. And we're even when you were there and won that tournament in 2018, it was already down, really.
Oh, it was falling fast. I mean, the great years there were like 14, 15. 13 through 16 was prime. I mean, 2014 we were there for a Costa event or Everstart, whatever it was at the time, and Kurt Niedermeyer did an article on day 2. And I mean, I came in, I had freaking surgical tape on my thumbs and my fingers. I mean, it was nothing to go catch 150 to 200 fish a day and have, the majority of those fish be 3+ pounds. I mean, you would catch 2016 when I won the tour event there in 16, I had 97 pounds or whatever it was for that event. But on day 4 of that tournament, which, working through the week, you try to preserve some fish. You don't want to beat everything up. So day 4, I went out and I pummeled them. And the guy that I had that was following me in a chase boat, he said he quit counting at 27 fish that I caught over 4 pounds that day. So I weighed in 29 pounds that day, but I probably caught 5 or 6 more stringers that were over 20 pounds that day. So that's how good that place was for a while. But the thing about it is, a lot of the local guys, you know, and me being from Pickwick and the Kentucky Lake guys, they remember when it wasn't that good. Like I can remember, you know, 06, 07, 08, 09, you know, that stretch of time through there at Pickwick where 15, 16, 17 pounds would win a May, June, July tournament. So what changed was the hydrilla. I mean, once the TVA said, you know, we're not messing with hydrilla anymore. It doesn't affect the Tennessee Valley Authority. So once the hydrilla got to grow and it got to be there for several years, then we saw the average size of fish go up, you know, considerably. In 2010, 11, 12, 13, for that stretch of time on Pickwick, it got ridiculous. I mean, there was one guy back home, Josh Williamson, that runs the Winter Trail deal there. They documented it for like 3 years in a row. And for like 3 years in a row, they were documented 25 or 30 double digits caught on Pickwick for like 3-4 years in a row. And then, you know, we went through a little cycle down there in like 2014, 15, 16. And same thing that happened at Gunnersville. It was a little virus. It didn't, you know, it wasn't like the largemouth bass virus, but it was a virus that really affected it. And then all of a sudden, like the fall of 16, we started seeing those 4, 5, 6 inchers chasing baits back. And that's the same thing they got going on in Kentucky now. So I feel like it's on the rebound. You know, it's going to be several years before we ever get back to what it was. But, you know, tournament pressure really hurt that lake. You know, it got so good. And I'm at Chickamauga right now. That's what's in the background back here is Lake Chickamauga. And it's once you start really pressuring lakes the way that we all pressure them, it takes a toll. I mean, you start hauling fish around in live wells. I mean, if you don't take care of them, they die. And once they die, you don't get to catch them again. They don't get to spawn again. So, you know, fish care is obviously extremely important. But that's one thing I love about what the Bass Pro Tour and Major League Fishing has done is we see an alternative now. And, you know, the kayak world, they do it. And you know, and obviously it's not technologically advanced enough that, you know, we can do it at the BFL level or your clubs can do it. Because believe it or not, guys, everybody in the world's not honest. I don't know if y'all knew that or not. But so there's, you know, it's not feasibly possible to do that at all levels yet. But I think that's the future of the game. And somebody at some point is going to come up with an app and it'll be figured out to where, you know, we can convert a lot of those tournaments to that format. I'm still a huge fan of the 5-fish format. I love it. It's why I grew up doing it. But just take care of them, man. I mean, bag of ice costs $2, you know. I mean, spend 10 minutes on YouTube learning how to fizz a fish. I mean, especially for you guys up north in the smallmouth waters. I mean, it is very safe and non-painful to fizz a fish if you know how to do it. So spend a little time. I mean, spend a little time, learn how to do it. You know, a bottle of G juice from TH Marine ain't that much money. Ice don't cost that much money. I mean, I use flip clips most of the time myself, but I make them myself in the shop with, you know, 1 ounce lead weights and some electrical connectors from Lowe's. And just, it doesn't take much of your time to spend a little time, you know, taking care of the fish, because that's a resource. And if you kill a 6-pounder in a live well, not only you're not ever going to catch her again, but she's not spawning again, and that's just good genes that, you know, yeah, she was fun to catch and she was nice to weigh in, but, I mean, she's gone.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's a great point. Yeah. Andy, what do you got anything left for Jason before we hit him with our last question?
Hit him with it. Best question of the night.
I'll have the best answer, too, I promise.
Oh, it's a good one. You better be ready.
All right. Or I'll make it up as we go either way.
So this question, we always love asking it, and it is, if you could sit down and invite 3 people, whether they're presently alive or they were alive 400 to 800 years ago. What 3 people would you invite to sit down, have a steak and a beer, and pick their brain? It doesn't have to be fishing.
Well, one of them's easy, and it is election time, but it would have to be Trump because I want to know what the hell he's thinking sometimes. So
I don't even think you'll get a straight answer.
Well, but that's beside the point. You would get an answer, and it would be and it would be entertaining. I assure you.
Oh man,
one of my heroes that I've always looked up to, and got. It's funny that I got to know him, and I have actually gotten to do this with him. Was Bill Dance, and everybody sees Bill with his bloopers and his show that he does now, but most people don't have any clue how great of a fisherman Bill Dance was. I mean, there is an Angler of the Year award because of Bill Dance. He was that good, and I've got to spend a lot of time with him. And he actually rode in the vehicle with me from we were out at Garmin shooting a commercial, and he rode all the way back to Memphis with me. So I got about 10 hours in the vehicle with him. So it took me about 3 days to get over the pain in my ribs inside from laughing so hard, but it was great.
Was there any funny bloopers while on the 10-hour ride?
Everybody
knows Bill Dance for the bloopers.
There's definitely some, but this is probably not the format or the location to talk about them because I'm sure there's children that are around. He told some stories about Ray Scott back in the day when Bassmaster was getting started, and so yeah, this is probably not the format. I mean, there's probably kids that aren't 21 years old that don't need to hear some of that stuff.
Perfect. We need to put a plus 18 advisory on this podcast, I guess.
Absolutely.
Going forward.
Absolutely. But the last one is I'm a fanatic when it comes to history. I read a lot. I mean, I've probably read 500-600 books, and one of I love the old Western stuff, and I would love if I could go back in time and sit down with Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and just see, because those guys were criminals. They were heroes, but they were criminals, and I want to know how they done it and got away with it. That's what I want to know.
I like that. I've never heard an answer like that with the history.
Well,
I think I've gotten John Wayne once.
Yeah,
John Wayne.
I want real cowboys. I don't want John Wayne, man.
All right. I dig it. That's a good 3. I like it. Sweet. Andy, you got anything left for Jason?
Oh, I just want to say good luck in 2021, and hopefully this COVID stuff doesn't mess with anything going forward. So,
right.
Man, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, like I said, I don't want to wish my life away or anybody else's life away. I'm just ready for this whole deal to be over. Like, let's get through the freaking election crap next week, and let's get life back to normal, and we can all go fishing. We can hopefully, hopefully not getting political, but hopefully we can get this, disease under control and get a vaccine, and we can all get back to doing the things we've always done before. And, man, I'm one of the population. I am absolutely sick of wearing a mask, dude. Like,
me too.
I think everybody's sick of it.
It's just, it is what it is, and we deal with it because that's what we're dealt. But yeah, dude, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to some changes that we're making with, FLW and which, the Big Five now and Major League Fishing. And I think you're going to have, probably 20 of us BPT guys from Major League Fishing that go fish, the old FLW circuit, pro circuit. I'm looking forward to fishing both formats. I mean, I love Major League Fishing. I love what it stands for. I love what it's done for the visibility of what we all love in the fishing world. I mean, regardless if you want to, plant your flag on the bass side or the Major League Fishing side or whatever, nobody can deny the amount of visibility that Major League Fishing has brought to our industry. So that's only good for me. It's good for you guys. It's good for everybody watching, because the more visibility, the more, the more potential we have for our sport. So right. I'm all in on Major League Fishing, but I'm also looking really forward to going back and fishing the pro circuit, back to the roots, fishing for 5, put them in a box and taking care of them and weighing them in. So it's going to be an exciting year. I mean, we got 13 tournaments to fish between the 2 circuits, and we go from Florida to Texas to, Champlain to La Crosse, Wisconsin. So we're going to be all over the country next year. Hopefully by that time we've got all this COVID mess handled. So y'all come out and see us at a weigh-in. Be glad to shake hands. I still do that, and sign some autographs and take some pictures. That's one of the most fun parts about what we get to do is meeting fans and interacting with fans. So y'all come see us, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Heck yeah, dude. I'm looking forward to hopefully when you guys come up this way, we can come out and make it to an event. But we wish you the best, and obviously we'll be rooting for you. And we appreciate you taking the time out tonight, man. It was a great talking to you and learning your story.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Y'all having me anytime. Y'all stay in touch, guys. I appreciate it.
Will do. You have a good night, Ben.
Yeah, take care, Jason. Dude, that was fun.
Agreed.
It's good to know that Kentucky's back on the rise.
Yeah.
Really,
from like 2010 to like 2015, I was like, one day I have to go fish Kentucky Lake. So I'm hoping by the time I'm able to go fish Kentucky Lake, that it's like in its prime and not too beat up, so I can just go whale on some giant largemouth.
Yeah. I
Those
think when I
Florida
got
strain fish are
real
going to get big.
Yeah, when I got real serious into wanting to learn as much as possible about bass fishing was when Kentucky was pumping out those giant bags. And that was a while ago. And obviously it's,
Yeah, it was like
a little bit, but it's good to hear that
2015, 2016. Yeah, like,
so
it's awesome.
sweet. Speaking of giant bags, though, dude, you had yourself one this past weekend.
Woo!
But it wouldn't be right for you to talk about it by yourself. So I brought in your buddy, and he's here to talk about it.
Surprise!
I figured this was what it was. Dang surprises. Well, when you sent me a picture of Jeff Nut Cam 1, I was like, oh, makes sense.
Jeff Cam.
Jeff.
For anybody listening, I surprised Andy and brought Destin in here so we can talk about their incredible performance this past weekend.
Dude, just a crazy weekend.
Yeah. Do either of you even have thoughts to even form yet, or is it still kind of fuzzy?
Dude,
I mean, Andy says fuzzy all the time, but
it's true.
I mean, it just keeps like looping in my head, just 6-pounder and 6-pounder and 5-pounder and culling 4 3/4. Dude, it's just like insane.
Oh, it was funny too because we only had one fish at 8:30, and we started moving around trying to find something. And we just stumbled upon a mega load, and it was just madness.
Well, we only weighed 2 fish off of that spot. I mean, we caught a good one right off the bat that we kept, and then we ended up weighing 2 off of that spot, and then we jumped around. We caught another one pretty quick off another spot, and at the end of the day, we caught a 688. So, well, we caught another one before that, and then we caught 688.
Bear pawed it.
Didn't you say it was like 310?
What?
Well,
didn't you say it was like 310, like 20 minutes ago when you caught that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
I was like, there he is, Andy.
Oh, I remember, like, specifically, you're like, oh, I see one. And then you drop down, and you're like, oh, I think he's going to it. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, got him. I was like, oh, boy.
Big one.
And then it jumps, and I was like, dude, that's a 7.
And I was like, oh, that's a 6 something. Oh, my gosh, that's what we need.
I look at him, I was like, bear paws are ready.
Did you do the jab?
I literally went, I was like, bear paws are ready. I was literally leaned over the side of the boat, and the fish opened its mouth and like stuck my thumb in its mouth, and I squeezed with both arms and yanked it into the boat. And Dustin's like, oh, I was like, I got him.
I was telling Andy that I wish you guys had the GoPro rolling just to see the raw like reaction when you guys just kept poting giants. I would have just loved to see that part.
It was so exciting. I mean, yeah, Andy and I are the only ones that really know that without a camera. But I mean, I wish there was, because it would be awesome to watch again, because that was just literally one of the coolest days of fishing I've ever had.
That 10 to 15 minute splurt we had at 8:30 to like 8:45 was just insane.
Oh yeah.
It was so ridiculous. Like, it was just on, doop, doop, doop. We're like, oh my gosh, what do we do?
We pull up and like, oh, they're here, Andy. And you're like, oh, I got one. And another one. Then another. And we caught another one. Every cast.
And then they just progressively got bigger.
Yeah.
Like, it's dumb.
How did you, in that madness, how did you even have the chance to, like, fizz and call?
We take turns.
Literally, like, whoever caught the fish and the person bellied it, we would just unhook it and put the line back in the water as soon as possible. And usually by the time we were done fizzing it, we're hooked up again and having to grab another fish.
Mm-hmm.
It was just dumb. Like, I think for, like,
there's a couple times I was visiting them, and you're like, I got one. I was like, all right, let me fish. I'm fizzing this fish.
But the biggest one we caught there, he was fizzing, I think, like a 5.5.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, here he comes. Like, I watched him on Panoptics swim over and grab my bait. And I set into it, and I was like, dude, it's a giant. It was like a 6.5. Yeah. And he's like, just puts it in the well, and all of a sudden he's like in battle position, ready to grab it again.
Oh, yeah.
It was friggin'
madness.
No
nets. Hashtag bear paws.
Andy, you have a comment here.
Oh, Sean.
Andy has shack hands. No net needed.
Yeah,
Well,
so my hands are freezing all day. I don't know. I have like bad circulation or something in my hands or something. And like I'm literally can't even like grip my fishing rod to fish like part of the morning. And Andy's like, oh, dude, here, feel my hand. They're like freaking sweating, dude. And it's like 34 degrees. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Nothing's wrong with me. My blood
There's
pressure.
something wrong with me, I guess.
Yeah.
I couldn't operate my wrists wouldn't work. Like we were next to Will Rogers at one point in the day, and we both hooked up at the same time. I look over at him, and I'm like, my butt end of my drop shot rod's in my armpit because my wrists won't work. And I'm like, are your hands working? And he's doing the same thing as me. Is we're just trying to get the fish in, and then trying to take the picture with Mike at the end of the day. I'm like, I hope I don't drop this fish because I can barely grip.
Yeah,
and it's so cold.
I can honestly say the only time my hands were cold was after we caught that giant and running out in the lake first thing in the morning.
Yeah, that was really cold.
Yeah, we were doing all of about 70. I think we're boat 12 and
yeah, we passed almost everybody.
Yeah, we passed 8 of the boats ahead of us, I think, on the way out.
Phoenix, there's a chop. I'm getting right past everybody.
Oh yeah. I think you even passed another Phoenix.
I think we did.
That was fun to watch.
PHX.
Yeah.
It was fun to watch. Like, literally, you guys fly by us like we were standing still. So I looked at Mike. Oh, we'll see him in 10 minutes.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I think we passed, 4 boats ahead of us before we got out into the lake.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, we did.
Just
That's
insane.
crazy. But, dude, guys, congratulations, though. Seriously, I know you guys have gotten a lot of congratulations this week, but sounds like there's some stuff that's going to come from this, which is going to be pretty cool and for you guys. So, congratulations.
Thank you, guys, man. That's awesome.
Had a mega hammer as a partner, so I don't know if they'll ever let Justin fish another tournament, but like,
no,
you got to pull it up here for everybody, for people watching. Let's.
It was just funny. At one point, we started like boat flipping like 4.5 pound fish on spinning gear because we're like, oh, I don't think it's gonna help, and why get our hands cold? We're just like, swing it.
Look at those things.
Swing it.
So which one was the 6'8"? Because they all just look massive.
I think in my right hand.
Yeah, the pale one
was the other one that he was talking about.
The center 2 are the 2 biggest fish.
Correct. Yep. And then the one in my left hand is probably no. I don't think even think that might be the 3rd biggest.
Well, I'm not even sure anymore.
Yeah, how can you be sure? They're all just giants.
Yeah, I mean they were all pretty dang big.
Oh, like we had 3 that we knew 2 were over 6. We had 3 that I'm pretty sure were over 6. And that one was like 5.5 and we had a 5.
Sheesh. I mean, it's crazy too with these is like they could look like they're the same dimensions but be totally different in weight.
The ones that were over 6 had like footballs in their bellies.
Yeah,
it was just
those
insane.
2 middle ones, they're just so fat.
thick.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Good grief.
They were some freaking meatballs, dude.
No doubt. Any last remarks for how this past weekend went for you guys?
Andy, you want to go?
Man, I'll tell you what. It was probably one of like the most fun fishing and non-fishing weekends that I think any of us may have ever had. Friday night sitting in the man garage at Jeff's house and being on all those boats and eating pizza and wings and sharing Pepsis and water. That was the ride. Then Bailey missed out on the ice cream. That was supposed to be his birthday soft serve special, but instead he gets pizza and wings and then a smallmouth beat down on Sunday and Saturday on the river. All that trash talking came back to bite you, bud.
It took you 57 minutes to say something.
Yeah, wow.
Hey, I got to be nice.
Better late than never, though.
Yeah.
I've been talking so much crap for weeks. See, I helped you guys. It was motivation.
We let the fish do the talking.
Yeah. There you go. There's your clap back.
Well, it was just so funny. Like every time I would catch like a 4.5 to 4 3/4, I feel like Destin would catch a 5. So I was just like, oh.
Dude,
awesome.
It was insane. Like that was literally like one of those days that you just will never forget. I mean, it was a once in a lifetime thing. I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully catch 30 sometime.
Next year we're gonna get 30.
That's right. Now that Andy's got some good graphs, thank you, Mike. we'll find some more juice because I mean, the spot that we caught him off is a spot I found in the Costa for practice like 4 years ago, dude. It was like the best spot I found out there in the middle of the abyss, and it's like a little gravel spot, and freaking they were loaded there. I mean, there were just a lot of really good fish. There's still a lot of good fish right there. They turned off after the wind changed. But, dude, it was just incredible. Like, we adjusted, we didn't catch them the way that I thought we'd catch them. We caught one of our big ones on a blade. I lost another one when my hands were barely working in the morning. But, like, we just went to work and we really jumped around. And I think we just both made good decisions. Andy would say something like, man, I don't think it's happening. Let's try some. So I'd be like, you know what? You're right. I think let's go. And I'd say it and we'd just go and move. And we just made good calls all day. It was just, once your time, it's your time. And we really just had a great day. It was just a freaking blast.
I think I brought 7 rods with me, and I bet you I made at least 40 casts with every rod I had.
Yeah.
So, and we caught them all on one bait. Thank you, Mike Schnupp, again.
Yes. Thankfully, I was out of the garage, and Mike was going through baits, and I was like, is that brownback you have right there? I was like, I haven't seen one of those in it seems like years. But
probably since I gave you like 3 bags
I've got
of
3
them.
packs. I'll give you one. And I was like, no, really? Me? So we caught every fish on 1 pack, and we ran out at the last cast of the day.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, actually, I caught one on a different color, but after we started catching them on that, I was like, yeah, I think this is a deal.
It's hard to beat it. It really is. But and congrats again, guys. But Destin, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Of course, surprise!
Surprise! I ain't scared of no ghosts.
I ain't scared of no ghosts.
That morning before takeoff was interesting to say the least. I don't think we can talk about it on here.
Magic Mike? Is that what
Mike.
you're referring to?
Magic Mike.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Among other things.
Oh, but you thought I said D-Picks?
Oh, gosh. The paddle.
The paddle, yes.
I mean, why would you give us paddles? I mean, there's going to be so many jokes made.
There's definitely going to be a beer fest joke. Obviously,
Yeah, exactly.
There was one.
Right.
Yes, there was.
That's so funny.
Oh, man.
There might have been a paddling bet at the beginning.
Yes, there was. And then turned into somebody saying, well, what if I don't want to take the bet?
Somebody actually said, well, what if I win? Can I ask to get paddled?
That was Mikey.
Yep.
Magic Mike.
Yep.
Absolutely. Face on, just ready to go.
But I mean, like our morning was our day was technically chaos. Like we get in the boat, the graphs weren't loading right. The net was stuck, even though we haven't used it in 4 years. We're actually going to use it today. And then I tried to get it out on the first fish, and it was stuck. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm bellying it in 34-degree air temps. No big deal.
Get him.
And then I bent my one hook, and I went to go grab my hook box, and I realized I didn't grab my hook box. I didn't have my hook box.
You're a hot mess this weekend, dude.
Oh, dude, it was nuts.
It worked out.
Saturday on the river, I left all my drop shot baits in my truck. Like, it was just madness.
It worked out regardless. So.
It was pretty nuts. And nobody got paddle at the end.
No.
Even though they wanted to.
Mike went home disappointed. Oh, man.
Was he?
We should have had him.
Were one of us more disappointed that we didn't get to do it? Is that?
That might be it. Yes, that might be it. Could have went like round table on him.
Good grief. Well, I think that is a great point to end this podcast because who knows what else is going to be said.
Yeah, it could end badly for somebody, I guess.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, thank you guys always for tuning in to watch and listen. So see you guys next time.
Awesome.